If you've watched many of my SEO trainings, you know that I am very passionate about providing transparency to our clients about SEO, about how it works, about how long it takes to work, about what's working and not. And part of the way that you provide transparency and enhance the value of an SEO product or engagement is to add good, thoughtful analysis in the form of report narrative. Here's what I mean. When you write an SEO report, you don't want to just be grabbing numbers and sticking them in tables on a deck. You want to explain what they mean. Because anymore, most clients and most marketing departments know how to find the numbers. They almost always have their SEMrush and RFs and Google Search Console and Google Analytics. They know the basics. And so what they don't necessarily need from you is just a complete replay of how the site performed in a given month. What they need from you is to look for trends, to look for patterns, to add a level of analysis to the SEO report that helps them understand better how their website acts, behaves, functions, or doesn't on any given month. So it is very important to do this. I know way too many SEO agencies that just literally export like a SEMrush report every month, which is just unethical, obviously, to charge for that. But also that will sugarcoat stuff. They'll take the numbers and be like, well, this doesn't really mean that, or, well, this isn't as bad as it looked, and things like that. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes things aren't as bad as they look, and you need to go back and do year-over-year comparisons to see if this is a normal downward trend in the, site traffic or things like that. But it also is really important for you to just tell the truth, to be like, this is what happened. Maybe I don't know why this happened. Maybe I need to go research it further. That will give you credibility with a client, to be clear and candid and overt. So I want to give you a few examples. I have Megan on my team, is a fantastic SEO report builder, and she does lots of great, and she never sugarcoats anything. It's always very straightforward, which is helpful because it helps the clients understand what she sees and why she thinks things are worth calling attention to. Over month, your clients, if you are selling SEO services, should be gaining knowledge. Every single month when you sit down and deliver an SEO report with them, hopefully you do it live and talk it through, they should be understanding more and more about their website. And that's to your benefit because it will showcase the value of what you're providing if you're doing SEO content or you're doing technical SEO or any of that. Adding the narrative component of reports is what makes them valuable. Period. So I'm going to show you some examples of how we do it at Winding River Consulting, and then at Hire a Writer, and hopefully it will help you give you some ideas for the kinds of narrative I'm describing to you. So basically, we run a couple of different kinds of reports. We do reports every month for clients that have SEO contracts, obviously, and then we have, kind of one-off. So whenever we start with a new client, we're always going to do usually an SEO audit, which is incredibly complex, and then a baseline report for the first month. So if you start with a client, you blog 4 times in a month, the next month's SEO report is probably not going to reflect any of that work because of the delay. Okay, so it's unlikely that those may not have even be indexed yet. Okay, so it's very important that you always position the first month as a baseline report so they understand, like, this is where we're starting from. This doesn't reflect, like, the work I just did, and hopefully you set the right expectations so that they understand that, right? That they didn't expect it to be like, oh, you've been doing this for 3 weeks, now why aren't we on page 1? That's on you if they do think that. Okay. So some of the things, right? We want to give kind of a narrative, like sentence format. So right here, you immediately notice these acquisition channels are from Google Analytics, right? But I think that it's important to, provide, some narrative form of the data, because a lot of times you're educating somebody about what any of these things mean, right? That these, okay, do they even know that these are acquisition channels? And how does SEO stack up, right? How does organic search stack up against other channels? Another thing is form submissions. So SEO-driven form submissions, they want to see the line of sight, right? So this is where you have to venture outside the Google properties, GSC and GA4. You have to venture outside into their CRM. You have to look at their website, their CMS. You want to kind of begin to establish understanding that we're not just tracking how SEO itself is going for your entire, digital property. We're tracking the business case of it, and that obviously showcases a great deal about your ability to bring a strategic eye to the whole situation. And then you want to be very candid, right? So run your Lighthouse report. Go, into your plugins and make sure you have Lighthouse established. You do it through GitHub, no problem. Download it into Chrome. You can run it very quickly and make sure you're kind of checking in on, some of the actual site stats. So mobile experience, desktop experience, things like that. And then you want to pay attention, right? You want to pay attention to what has changed so that you're looking kind of at that month-over-month comparison. So if you're in GSC, you can set the comparison. GA4, same. HubSpot, a lot of the CMSs will let you do that too. You want to look at things like average position and then, overall, like how do you stack up against competitors, things like that. And then, often if we're doing this baseline report, we will add some narrative around CX because CX does factor in, right, to SEO and is an important thing for people to begin to understand. So what I want to make clear to you is that the bullet points that I just kind of read over with you, all of the data to support that narrative is in the report itself. Like we go through and we do all the tables. I'll show you. We do all of the snapshots. We do all the, kind of data from all the different platforms and all that kind of stuff, right? We're very good about, making sure we report on all the actual information. But adding that narrative right at the top, first of all, it's the moment when you have their attention the most, probably, because you just started the call, so they're like going to remember it. But it also just kind of packages, like, what's the big picture? What's the takeaway? Some clients are going to want the nitty gritty. They're going to want to go into every single slide and analyze the data that you pulled. Other clients really just want the big picture. Like, tell me the brass tacks. Like, how are we doing? Do we have an A, B, C, or D? Like, they want a grade. They want to understand kind of where they stand and what needs to change. So that's very important. So I will mention to you that we bookend these. So we do a report summary, and then we also, at the end of every SEO report, we do whens and cautions. And we do this for both baseline reports and monthly reports, because it's very important at the end, I think, of the report to summarize. Like, okay, what's great, what needs work? Because a lot of both of those things inform the next month's strategy. And you want to make sure that your SEO strategy is agile. Sure, you may have put together 3-month, 6-month topic cluster plans, all of this, but you need to be agile and understand that you're going to respond to the things that you see happening on the website. If you need to add development hours in because you had a bunch of site speed issues, the client needs to have that conversation with you and have it right there so that you can get it done. So I think that, kind of bookending the narrative like that is a really powerful way to make sure that the client pays attention to the right things and you don't just get lost in pages and pages of information that they may or may not understand, honestly. I wanted to show you an example of basically how we SOP this out. I feel like this might be a download on our website. I'm not totally sure, but I'll double check. So basically what I do is I have a complete SOP for monthly SEO reporting. We use ClickUp, so it's there. I may even have a video on this, I'm not totally sure. But basically looking at logging in, those were not my real passwords, so don't try to hack me. Looking at how you're going to, generate the SEO report every month, where the data comes from and what metrics they're supposed to be paying attention to, and then add in the narrative. And I thought this might be helpful to look at so that you can kind of see my directions to my team. So for instance, what I tell them is please add in a narrative that includes your interpretation of the data. What trends do you see? What concerns you? What encourages you? What would you recommend they do in response to what you see? And then please offer at least 3 constructive pieces of advice for the client to take away from the report and that we can use to support them in the coming month. So that's just kind of an example of how I would encourage you to think about the narrative. You're thinking about calling out the big picture of summarizing the data in narrative format and of offering both the wins and the cautions that I kind of described to you. What are you really encouraged by? What concerns you? And then more importantly, what do you think they should do about it? So you need to have that answer because you're supposed to be the expert, right? So it's really important that you understand the basics of that. All right. I will add in, let's see, I was going to show you one more, but I think that was pretty actually sufficient. So if you have any questions, drop those questions in the comment of this video, but I think the big takeaways, add narrative, use sentence formats and bullet points in order to summarize data, bookend it so that you talk it through with the client before you even dive into the numbers, and then you summarize it with the client afterwards, and make sure it always ends with action, that it ends with a to-do list. Okay, how are we going to address what I see? What are the big takeaways from this report, and then what matters most? So that in and of itself takes time. It doesn't take a lot of time to pull data, right? It doesn't take a lot of time to put data from this format into this format so that it's branded and it looks good. What does take time is for you to analyze it. And I think it's an important point of integrity to kind of force yourself to do that so that you are ensure that you're continuously offering value to the people that you have SEO engagements with. All right, I wish you all the best of luck with this. I will try to find if I have a download for the template for the SOP for SEO reporting, but if you can create protocol around it, if you can ensure that everybody in your team understands what the formats of these things should look like, then you'll be able to standardize it, and that will be a little bit time saving. But at the end of the day, this is worth putting time into because people are entrusting you with their websites, and you want to make sure that you do a great job.